These players have the potential to break fantasy football in 2025. The sky is the absolute limit in terms of their upside. Now, all of these players are far from a sure thing, but drafting them could mean that they could win you your league in 2025, and we're always looking for potential league winners in fantasy football because, as you know, winning your fantasy football league, there's really nothing like it. So let's talk about some of these guys. Let's talk about Chase Brown, actually somebody who could win you a league in 2025. In fact, Chase Brown was technically somebody who won you leagues in 2024. Obviously drafted out of Illinois. They brought in Zach Moss last year, you'll remember, on a contract that was, not bad money, but not great money. Zach Moss had a decent year with the Colts the year before Zach Moss came out. When you're looking at the first couple games for these two backs, in the first 5 games of the year, you got to keep in mind, Chase Brown was the running back 10 on the year last year in 16 games. In the first 5 games, his snap share looked like this: 33, 20, 24, 40, and 33%. After that, you have 60, 58, 50, 80, 87, 83, 81. The snap share at the end of the season is mind-boggling to me. And this is why, even as a rental in Dynasty and even in fantasy football this year with his current price, the dude got 80, 87, 83, 81, 83, 93, 98, and 81% snap share in weeks 9 through 17.
Yeah,
that is absurd for a running back. That's Kyron Williams level snap share.
Once Zach Moss came back healthy, there was essentially there was no use utilizing him anymore like they were trying to at the beginning of the year and doing an even split. Chase Brown was just objectively better. And so they learned that pretty quickly.
And I even just want to look, let's look, what was I say, 9 through 17?
Yeah.
Let's apply that time frame and compare him versus Derrick Henry and put that on the screen. He's winning in a lot of these categories, right? First of all, he outscored Derrick Henry from weeks 9 to 17, 20.6 points per game in that time span at the end of the year. You got to understand, this was the first time Chase Brown was getting this kind of volume in his career. And so, he did have, I think there was a little bit, can you pull up the ADP for me on Underdog? A little bit of adjustment in Fantasy Pros, probably. I can pull that up. But even then, still, the running back 3 in that time, 86% snap share. That's 3rd in the NFL. I'll put some other guys in here. Let's put Saquon in here. And Saquon takes some of these, obviously. He was the running back 1 in that time. But still, Saquon, 75% snap share. Chase Brown, 86% snap share. Chase Brown also leads Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley in that time frame with rushing attempts inside the 5-yard line, which is a very important statistic because especially with running backs, touchdowns are vital for fantasy football upside and production. Also led both of those guys in targets by a long shot and receiving yards, which means what? Really, when we're looking at evaluating a running back, we're looking at their upside from a red zone perspective, and we're looking at their receiving upside because it basically means a high floor. And so what I'm seeing from the last 8 weeks of the season, 9 weeks of the season from Chase Brown, is that he has as high upside as some of the best backs in the league from a fantasy perspective, and as high a floor. And when you're looking at his production, it reflects that. In weeks 9 through 17, the lowest points he scored was in week 17. It was 13.1. Every other, pretty much every other game is 26, 22, 19, 19, 24, 26. That's a league winner. And so when you're looking at his ADP, because really when I'm looking at these numbers, I could say, okay, I think you should probably be getting Chase Brown at the turn. Really, at the end of the first, early second. If he's doing anything close to this, he should be going at the turn. Again, we're talking about the running back 3 in that time. So we're talking about comparing him to Bijan and Gibbs and Saquon and Derrick Henry and whoever else you want to talk about. In reality, on Fantasy Pros ADP, which this is standard score. Let me go to half PPR scoring real quick. And on half PPR scoring, he's going, oh boy, the 2-3 turn.
He's 2-3 turn, beginning of the third, ADP 27.2. I'm just telling you guys, looking at the turn like you were talking about, is essentially Nico Amon-Ra, Genti BTJ, Henry Achane. You can make arguments for all of those guys. I'm looking at ADP really starting after London. AJ Brown, Ladd McConkey, JT, Rashee Rice. Chase Brown really should be in that range. I would rather take a running back shot. I'd rather take Chase Brown over Ladd McConkey.
I think I would take him over.
And he's going almost a full round ahead of Chase Brown right now, according to Underdog.
I would take him over all those guys. Literally all of them. Jonathan Taylor, I would take him over Jonathan Taylor. I would take him over Bucky Irving. So here's the thing. Bucky's great, but he's going to get more snap share than Bucky. Bucky and Rashad, we're still technically splitting that backfield 55-45 last year, pretty much all the way through the season. Yeah. Jonathan Taylor is in a terrible situation compared to Chase Brown. Terrible. Ladd McConkey, I like, but has limited upside. Rashee Rice is coming off a knee injury. Tyreek Hill's a wild card. Chase Brown, in my opinion, is the pick there.
It's name value. That's why those guys are going so much.
And again, I don't care about that. So. We don't care about that. We care about winning fantasy leagues. Chase Brown is a great option in your fantasy football leagues. And right now, at the price he's going at, I mean, I don't know if there are many better picks. And so the upside is obviously incredible. We looked at that. And again, some of those metrics reflect that as well. And very, very good in that 9 through 17 stretch last year. And if that carries over even at all into this year, you're going to be winning leagues with this guy.
So, no, we're not going to have a million rookies for a video like this, because obviously the sky can be the limit for a guy like Ashton Jeanty. The sky can be the limit for a guy like Ted McMillan. The sky can be the limit for Travis Hunter and a lot of rookies that went in the first round of the NFL draft this year. And they're going lower in fantasy drafts because there's just inherent risk in taking a shot on a rookie who hasn't proven it at the NFL level yet. I will say, though, unique to almost any other guy not named Ashton Jeanty in this rookie class this season, we've got to talk about Omar Hampton. I mean, we were just mentioning Chase Brown and what his price is going at the 2-3 turn, which is very palatable, definitely worth taking a shot on him there. And he's proven, yes. But Omar Hampton going in the middle of the 4th round, right by a wide receiver like Ted McMillan, who skill set wise, we don't really know what that target volume is going to look like on a week-to-week basis. And talent wise, it might take him a minute to develop. James Cook is going right behind Omar Hampton back-to-back. DJ Moore, we don't know if Odunze is going to be the wide receiver one there, if DJ Moore will be, if it's going to be a split, what that upside and ceiling is going to look like for a guy like DJ Moore. But Omar Hampton, when you're talking about ceiling and upside, I think we're kind of overthinking this situation, guys. He was a first-round pick as a rookie running back in a Greg Roman offense. And I know it was cute last year to say that like Justin Herbert was going to be a super wildly productive quarterback in fantasy. And like we were just overthinking that situation. When Greg Roman is an offensive coordinator for an NFL team, they're going to run the crap out of the ball. They're going to run the ball first, and less is more in terms of like the passing game. That's why we're so low on anyone beyond Ladd McConkey in that offense from a receiving perspective. Like anyone who wants to take a shot on Trey Harris in late rounds or Quentin Johnson in late rounds, we're just not a fan of that this year in fantasy, because you're going to be dropping those guys before you can say fantasy football, honestly, at the beginning of the season. There's not enough volume, consistent volume to go around there in an offense where Greg Roman is calling plays, dating literally all the way back to the time that he was with Jim Harbaugh in the early 2010s. This is a trend that has transcended the really the evolution of football as we know it over the last decade and a half. Greg Roman is going to continue to be an old school smash mouth offensive play caller where all he wants to do is run the ball on first and second down and give the ball to the running backs in the red zone. We saw this last year with J.K. Dobbins. I mean, if washed up, injury prone J.K. Dobbins can put up 20 plus points easily in a Chargers offense with Greg Roman calling the ball, finishes a running back 2 higher than that on a points per game basis because, of course, he missed 5 games. What do you think Omar Hampton is capable of doing in this offense, guys? As a prospect, he checks every single box. If he was not in a class with Ashton Jeanty, he would have by far and away been the most popular prospect in this class. Well, maybe aside from Travis Hunter. You could not ask for a better situation for a running back. You put a proven veteran running back in here. You put any other running back in the NFL in a Greg Roman offense. You put J.K. Dobbins in this offense. J.K. Dobbins, if he had stuck with the LA Chargers and they had not taken a shot on a running back, where do you think J.K. Dobbins would be going right now in fantasy drafts with all of his injury questions? He'd be going probably in the top 5 to 6 rounds. Let's be honest here, guys. So with Omar Hampton, yeah, the sky is absolutely the limit. And at a 4th round price tag for a guy who is in just as good of a run game situation as someone like Ashton Jeanty in Vegas, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's going 3 rounds later than Ashton Jeanty, and his ceiling is the same. It is the same this year. So Omar Hampton, all about him this season.
All right, let's talk about this guy next. He does have the potential to win your fantasy league, Rome Odunze. From the Chicago Bears. And obviously last year, Rome didn't really do anything notable. In fact, from a production standpoint, Rome wasn't really even startable. He ended up as the wide receiver 49 in PPR leagues last year. Scored 144 PPR points. He had 700 yards, only 54 receptions. He did have 100 targets, but again, only caught 54 of those and did only have 3 touchdowns as well. And so really when you're looking at why he didn't produce last year, it's pretty much All of it. I mean, he didn't get the volume. He didn't score touchdowns. He wasn't efficient. He didn't catch a high percentage of his passes he did get. And so you're looking at that and you're like, okay, what do we expect from him this year? Because they do have DJ Moore. Obviously, Keenan Allen is gone. And Keenan Allen wasn't like worthless in that offense last year. He got volume. But they also bring in Luther Burden from the draft out of Missouri, a good prospect, but not a high target earner, in my opinion, more of a guy you get in space and let him work. And so I don't think you're going to see him utilized as a high target guy. You also bring in Colston Loveland, one of the best tight end prospects in the draft. So Chicago added 2 pass catchers in the first 45 picks of the draft, which is notable. They bring back Swifty, but obviously they still have DJ Moore, who was the alpha last year and could be the alpha again this year. Now, with Rome Odunze, you can look into his analytical profile and see a couple of things that may suggest that he could break out this year. He was 13th in routes run last year, so he was on the field. He was 10th in the league in red zone targets. Again, didn't really convert a lot of them, but you're looking at a brand new Ben Johnson offense. Obviously, the head coach of the Chicago Bears is one of the brightest offensive minds in the NFL. And so considering that he was second in the NFL last year in unrealized air yards, and yeah, he was only 33rd in targets, and his efficiency was bad. He was 75th in yards per route run, 1.33 yards per route run, which part of that, if I had to guess, comes from his ADOT, and I think his ADOT was super. Yards per target was 7.3. That's 79th in the NFL. And so that's part of it as well. So really what we're going to have to see from Rome Odunze are really 2 things. Number 1, a utilization change. He's going to have to be used a little bit differently for this to actually work out. But number 2, the targets are just going to have to go up, and the catchable targets. I'm going to look the catchable target rate last year for Rome Odunze. I'm guessing it was low. Come on. Frick. There we go. The catchable target rate last year for Rome Odunze, 58%. That is 98th in the NFL. And so he wasn't getting high-quality targets is the problem. We do have reception perception data on Rome Odunze for this year, and when you're looking at it, I mean, he really graded out pretty well. I don't think the issue is Rome Odunze. I think Rome Odunze can be the best wide receiver on that team this year. Again, DJ Moore is the favorite. I understand that. DJ Moore is very good. He's in the prime of his career, and we're going to be drafting DJ Moore this year. But against man coverage, he's the 71st percentile. Zone was 52nd. Press coverage, he was the 87th percentile. And so, the unfortunate thing is that, he played 63% of his routes against zone coverage, and that's where he was the lowest. And that's probably the part where you look at and you're like, yeah, it's not great. But at the same time, this definitely is the profile from a route running standpoint of a guy who could take a year 1 to year 2 jump. In fact, we've seen it reflected in a lot of this analysis with guys who have improved year over year. And I think Rome Odunze is a prime candidate to do that. Who knows if it's going to be this year or not? But when you're looking at Rome Odunze's ADP right now in fantasy drafts, I mean, he's going at pick 77. And so you're talking like into the 6th, 7th round here. He's going around guys, and first of all, he's going next to Deebo Samuel. He's going next to Jordan Addison, Chris Olave. He's going next to Jacoby Myers. So the other receivers in that range, some of them are decent flex options, maybe, but a lot of them have a ton of question marks, just like Rome Odunze. And Rome Odunze undoubtedly has higher upside than pretty much every single one of those guys. And so he's not always going to be the right pick in that range, but I think you definitely, again, what I just said, he's got the most upside out of the guys in that range. So if you're shooting for upside, if you got a pretty safe roster through, 6, 7 rounds, and Rome Odunze is on the board in the 8th, I could definitely see a good argument for taking him. Again, it's going to take some interesting utilization of Rome Odunze for him to actually make the jump. And it's more likely that DJ Moore is going to be the wide receiver 1. But Rome Odunze as a talent, as a football player, and situationally does have, in my opinion, high-end wide receiver 2 upside. I think from a career standpoint, he has wide receiver 1 upside. This year, maybe not because of DJ Moore. But again, at his current price, wide receiver 38, I think that if he hits, you're going to see him win people fantasy football leagues this year.
Yeah, and look, the next guy, it's no secret the upside that Tyreek Hill has in your fantasy leagues this season especially. And the reason I want to highlight him is because of how drastically different the price tag is this season compared to years past. I mean, this is the first time that we've seen Tyreek Hill not going even close to the first round in years. / like before his big breakout in Kansas City, like it's been a long, long time. And again, it's very merited. I mean, when you're looking at him last season and what he was able to pull off or not pull off, he went down from 23.5 points per game in 2023 to 12.8 points per game in 2024, only 959 receiving yards. And yeah, he played all 17 games. His target share went down. It was 35th in the league among wide receivers, 24.4%, 16th in the league with targets. So the target volume went down quite a bit, but he still should have been in the like 15 plus point per game range with that target volume with the Tyreek Hill that we've come to know and love as a fantasy asset. But looking at the routes run, 500 routes run on the season, 29th among wide receivers, only 18 deep targets, but he had 18 red zone targets as well. So like, you're looking at this production, you're like, dang, he didn't have a ton of receptions. The target volume went down, the target share went down. And the only reason he was actually able to manage 12.8 fantasy points per game on the year is because he had like 6 touchdowns. The rest was ugly. 81 receptions. He went from 15 yards per catch to 11.8. There's a lot of red flags there, obviously. There are also a lot of reasons to potentially invest in Tyreek Hill at price this season. And while we acknowledge and understand what the risk is there, it's a lot more palatable at price this season. There was risk heading into last season, and if he was going to be able to match at 30 years old what he did as a 29-year-old wide receiver in a situation that is shaky year in and year out because of the questions at the quarterback position, because of Tua not being able to stay healthy and missing a significant amount of time. All that to say, on a points per game basis, as bad as it was, since he did play the whole season, he actually finished as wide receiver 18 in total points. It was ugly to start him. Like, that really didn't tell the whole story. He also had a hand injury that I think he was dealing with during the middle of the season, right around when Tua got hurt.
And he had because when he got arrested. Now that's a legal situation I will laugh about because he was speeding and the video is. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyways, all that to say, the hand injury was something, okay, well, do you want to give him an excuse for that? You could give him an excuse for that and be like, okay, that does significantly impact a wide receiver and his ability, to catch balls. But that doesn't impact his route running. That doesn't impact whether or not he is or is not open, right? It's a hand. You don't run on a hand. So again, with Tyreek Hill this season, going at ADP according to Underdog, 22.8, and I would assume probably lower than that in Fantasy Pros because of the upside that he has for a best ball format like Underdog. So you're probably going to be getting him at cheaper prices in other formats as well. Talking ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, etc. Again, looking at Underdog going there right around Josh Jacobs, Rashee Rice, who's coming off the ACL. As much as we love Rashee Rice this year and admit and know what his upside could be, he has just as many questions with that PCL injury. Tyreek Hill at 31 years old going at ADP 22.8, going at the 2-3 turn, sometimes in the third round, going just so slightly ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, all who have questions in their own right. Devontae Adams being a wide receiver too in his own offense. Same with T. Higgins. JSN with Sam Darnold throwing him the football. There are plenty of wide receivers in this range in the same tier as Tyreek Hill right now where you just look at even best case scenario for the other receivers in those situations. Do they really have the same upside that Tyreek Hill does? I would wager probably not. So am I going to tell you, hey, go draft Saquon Barkley second overall in your fantasy draft, and then at the 2-3 turn, go ahead and snag Rashee Rice and Tyreek Hill? No, I'm not going to tell you to do that. That is way too much risk in the top 2 to 3 rounds of your fantasy draft. You've got to get some sort of safe asset there. But if you're going to be taking a Jamar Chase in the first couple of picks of if you're drafting at the 1 or 2 spot, or you take CeeDee Lamb at 3, if you want to go ahead and take a shot on Tyreek Hill there at the 2-3 turn on the way back, I don't blame you at all if you can lock down that safety in the first round.
All right, 3 other quick guys here real quick. Drake London's probably the closest he is the guy on this list of being drafted closest to his ceiling probably because he's being drafted as the wide receiver 9 on most platforms, and he was the wide receiver 5 last year. What's his ceiling? A top 5 wide receiver. Wide receiver 5 or higher. Yeah. I don't think he's probably going to be the 1 or the 2 just because of Chase and CD.
He could be 3.
He probably could. He has that upside, guys. I think we saw this last year. The thing about Drake London is he's only missed 1 game in his NFL career. The thing about Drake London is he had 9 touchdowns last year, and you'll remember he had 2 touchdowns in his last game with Michael Penix where he had 40 points. 17 and 40 points in his last 2 games with Penix throwing him the ball, and people are looking at Drake London, I think, and pushing him down maybe to the mid-late second. I think he's a very good pick there. This is a guy that he's still 23 years old, and caught 100 passes last year. 9 touchdowns is a lot, and so that's why I say he's probably close to his ceiling. But again, from an upside standpoint, I mean, on a week-to-week basis especially, the guy can give you 33, 40 points, right? And so I'm looking at Drake London this year, and I think the price that he's at makes him a pretty safe pick, honestly. But a guy with top 5 upside that's going as the wide receiver 9, and to be fair, this is why I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one. Most of the guys here have top 5 upside. Nico Collins is in front of him. He has top 5 upside. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a top 5 wide receiver last year. Brian Thomas has top 5 upside. A.J. Brown has top 5 upside.
I think what you're excited about there is the amount of increased target volume that you saw in a small sample size tied to Michael Penix, who just subjectively made that offense look better overall.
I mean, and again, the sky is the limit. He was playing most of the year with really a bad quarterback situation. Right. It was really not good.
Yeah.
So, and still, he has really, really broken out. It is very possible that Drake London is just a perennial first-round wide receiver pick in fantasy football. In fact, I would put my money on that before I put my money on him taking a step back. Right. So,
Evan Ingram is now going into a situation in Denver where they didn't add really any big names at the wide receiver position. I think they took a shot on a third-round guy in the NFL draft this season. Not a guy that we're going to really bet on, breaking out and exceeding expectations this year. But Evan Ingram is, I mean, you've heard this before. Evan Ingram essentially plays slot. He's a slot wide receiver. He's not really a true tight end. He is an above-average route runner as a quote-unquote tight end at the NFL level, and he's a short to intermediate target for a quarterback who showed really, really, really good stuff last year as a rookie in Bo Nix, but does need some help in the short to intermediate game. I mean, Courtland Sutton doesn't necessarily play that role. Courtland Sutton can be a big play guy. He kind of plays on the outside. He's more of a stereotypical X. Evan Ingram can be a great complement to that, and I think this is phenomenal. This is honestly kind of what they were missing schematically in an offense that is going to like to run the ball quite a bit under Sean Payton. I mean, we're low on J.K. Dobbins this year. This is a pretty solid situation for him to make a dent production-wise. Not as much as he did in LA last season, but still have some productive weeks. And then RJ Harvey, obviously, who was a surprise second round pick in the NFL draft, who we expect to be pretty productive. I mean, his talent profile is very similar to that of Alvin Kamara. We're not obviously saying that Harvey's going to be an Alvin Kamara, but again, I mean, with that running back tandem, and then you've got that connection between Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton, you add in Evan Ingram here, and guys, he had a run from week 6 through 14 last season when he was healthy, essentially, because he missed multiple games with injury. When he was healthy, 23, 11, 15, 14, 13, 10, 14, and 9 points. He was a mid to high end tight end 1 in most formats. So you're looking at that production there, and you're like, okay, that's something that we are probably going to want to look at with games of 10 targets, 8, 7, 9, and 6 targets, a couple of sprinkling in 5 against New England and Green Bay in week 7 and 8. With Evan Ingram this season, you've obviously seen what Sean Payton has been able to do for receiving tight ends in the past in offenses. I mean, Jimmy Graham obviously being case in point, probably the best true receiving tight end that he's had in the past. But with Evan Ingram, they went out of their way to go trade for and sign Evan Ingram. And I think this is a situation that honestly is pretty ideal for him to be productive this season. If you fade tight end and want to just take a shot on a guy who has a relatively high floor later on, I think Evan Ingram is the guy you want to go with on Underdog right now, ADP 107. Going as the tight end 8 overall. So after that big drop off, I mean, why is Mark Andrews going over Evan Ingram right now? Mark Andrews, yeah, he had a really good run at the end of last season. It was entirely touchdowns. And yes, that's kind of the way they like to utilize him with that red zone opportunity. But you take away those touchdowns, that target volume is not pretty at all. You are 100% relying on touchdown. It's touchdown or bust with Evan Ingram or with Mark Andrews every single week, and it's not with Ingram because he gets the target volume.
So again, these guys have super high upside this year. Whether or not they live up to their potential, we will see. But we have to look at them as players who could potentially win you the ultimate prize. And so it's worth kind of bookmarking these guys as you're going through your draft. Do I want to take the risk here for the potential payoff? Do us a huge favor. If you haven't already and you play fantasy football, make sure you drop a like. It's free. It's easy. It helps Nathan and I. It supports the channel. And subscribe if you would. We said if we get 50K on this channel this season, Nathan and I are going to get matching tattoos. We could potentially get matching tattoos on our butts. That maybe could be negotiated if we get 50K. So make sure you're subscribed. No, but for real, we're gonna be putting out fantasy content, you know, from now until December essentially, and we're gonna try to put out high quality content for you to help you win your leagues. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you later.